of thought.
The prophet of thought.
Peace, folks, and welcome back to another edition of the Prophet of Thought series right here on the old TPOT YouTube page. I am your host, X, of course. Tonight, y'all know y'all will be seeing the Ladies of Thought, TLOT, live and direct. But y'all know that already. I don't know why I'm telling you. Guess I just like saying it. Yeah. We got a good show for y'all tonight, but y'all already know that the Ladies of Thought always put on a good show. The Unicorn 4 is always good for a good show. Peace, folks. What's good? I see you up there. JL5, Don Teasy, Lady Cats, Lady Ming already in the house as usual. I Quizzo.
Hello.
Char to the wheel. What's good? What's going on, Lady Ming?
Nothing too much. Been a long day dealing with 2 sick kids.
Oh.
Cleaning up, throw up, and all type of mess.
Yeah,
So I'm kind of beat.
I remember those days. It's the crazy thing is I kind of miss them.
Yeah, they keep you young.
Yep, kind of miss them.
And we're gearing up for a snowstorm here in Chicago.
Well, I don't miss the northern snow. I don't miss that because I moved down here from upstate New York. I was living in Hudson Valley before I moved down here, and shit, it was 5 feet of snow when I moved. The day I moved, like 5 feet of snow. I said I will not miss this shit.
I anticipate us being snowed in tomorrow. Like it's supposed to snow all day.
Wow. Well, you know,
hey,
Chi-Town got those
Hello.
brutal winters anyway.
Yeah.
What's good? Peace, Lady Cats. What's going on?
How are you, Brother X and
I'm
me?
good. I'm good.
I'm good.
Folks, tonight we will be talking about culture, spirituality, and religion. I will be asking the question if these things are an asset or a liability to us as Black folks. The answers should be interesting. And tonight, I actually have notes, y'all. See that? Because there's so many different definitions of culture, spirituality, religion. You know, there's so many definitions. So we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna try to get into it as much as possible. I guess while we waiting for the other unicorns to arrive, let me go ahead and thank my donors because I got a few donations today. I really appreciate y'all donations. I do. I mean, I don't know what it is. I guess the material is better. Y'all are enjoying the show more, or y'all like me more. I don't know. But y'all have been hitting me off with the donations. And let me tell you something, it is appreciated because I'm going to gear this thing up. Like I told y'all last week, pretty soon Teach is going to be coming down. So we're going to have a whole setup where it's going to be me and Teach. Y'all will see both of us every week. So I appreciate all the donations. I really do. And y'all know who y'all are. I'm not gonna, spout y'all name out. Y'all know how I do things. Unless y'all write me and say, well, I want you to say my name. Other than that, I never say who gave me what. Everyone who donates to TPOT, y'all know I always hit you off with a little personal email thanking you. Whether it's 1 or 1,000, you're always going to get a personal email from old X showing his appreciation because I do appreciate your support. I appreciate you showing up here every Wednesday and Thursday, and I appreciate you supporting, the platform and what we're trying to do here. And I want to thank you. Okay. Now that I got that out of the way. Yeah. So we're going to be talking a little culture, spirituality, religion tonight. I know me. I grew up, everybody knows I've said this before. I was raised by church folks. So is that lady up? She just went black. I thought that was Lady Classic for a minute, but it just went black. Oh, there she is. She's back. What's up, Lady Classic?
Good evening, sir.
Hey, what's
Hey,
going
Classic Ruby.
Hey,
y'all.
Ruby.
Welcome.
on? What's going on?
I'm excited for tonight. I'm excited for this topic.
Oh, yeah. I always look forward to Thursday nights. I always look forward to these nights because I know I'm going to. See, you ladies may not know this, but when I sit here and I listen to you ladies talk, I'm actually taking it all in because I'm trying to learn some things. Okay. I'm always trying to learn. I write shit down too. Maybe y'all don't notice that, but I do a lot of writing of things down because see, I take all the stuff that I get and see, I kind of formulate this material into my video productions and my, so everything gets recycled. I'm a recycler. Ask my wife. I make sure we put the plastic and the cans and all that shit in the recycle. So I recycle material too and use it as well. So, like little sound bites and stuff from y'all. Y'all gonna start hearing. That's something else. Let me tell y'all this. Y'all are gonna start hearing little sound bites, in some of the future videos. So prepare to hear yourselves in some of these productions. Just giving y'all a little heads up on that.
Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I guess we can start because Lady Kendra, she usually comes in a little late anyway. I think she be having trouble with her browser or something. But yeah. Let's go ahead and get started. You ladies tell me what your definition of culture is.
I think culture is different practices that I guess people of the same I guess background practice, like certain morals that they all believe in, the language that they speak, sometimes the religion that they practice, the foods that they eat, the music that they dance to, the clothes that they wear, stuff like that.
Yeah, and short answer, I guess, is like the tie that binds people. um, who are from the same place or area. It can go beyond just race or sex, gender or whatever. Just to add to what Kat said.
Okay. Well, I think like for me, I kind of go by the whole social science kind of definition. So it's like a collection. It's a collection of basically everything. So your language, your food, your religion, your beliefs, just generally your
Mm-hmm.
clothing, your music, your sensibilities as far as what's right and wrong and moral and laws and whatever. Like basically, just everything that life is kind of makes up
Mm-hmm.
culture.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is this? I'm looking up in my chat room. I don't usually pay attention to the chat room all that much, but I guess y'all can go ahead and block uh Lady Linda. But she's like, oh, I guess when he took my wrench, he told everyone else to take my wrench. See, now, let me tell you something, madam. Hold on, unicorns. Let me address this.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something, madam. No one had to tell me to do anything. When I take people wrenches, it's on my own volition. This is my goddamn channel. No one has to tell me to do anything. I've taken a few people's wrenches, and I've taken their wrenches for reasons that I want to take them. Has nothing to do with anyone else. Okay? So if you're worrying about whether or not your wrench got taken, don't worry about whether or not I was told to do it, because no one can tell X anything on X's channel. What you need to worry about is maybe thinking about what you did to make X take it. Okay? Has nothing to do with anyone else. All right? If I took your wrench, it was a reason that I came up with, not no one else. Okay, madam?
Mm-hmm.
Peace. All right. And I'll just go ahead and block her or whatever. Anyway, what's up, Lady Kendra? Lady Kendra has joined us.
Hi,
Hello,
Kendra.
Kendra.
Hello, hello,
Hello.
everyone.
You know. And yeah, as far as you unsubscribing, I don't care. I don't care. Lady Kendra, I had just asked the other unicorns. I'm sorry about that, y'all. You know, I don't usually break off for crap like that, but yeah, I had
all good.
asked the other unicorns what their definition of culture was. If you want to give your definition.
That's an interesting one. Culture. Wow. I don't know if I've ever really truly given that a lot of thought. I guess your culture would be whatever either your socio-economic, your racial, or your national group of people decides is normal and good for the majority to practice. And I know that's super vague because culture can include raised, and all of that. So culture kind of encompasses the most important facets basically of your life.
Well, let me give you all the old Webster, the old Webster definition of culture. Webster describes culture as the customary beliefs, social forms, and material traits of a racial, religious, or social group. Also, the characteristic features of everyday existence, such as diversions or a way of life shared by people in a place or time, popular culture, which really is vague as hell. They also describe it as the set of values, conventions, or social practices associated with a particular field, activity, or societal characteristic, studying the effect of computers on print culture. Okay, that doesn't make any damn sense. Forget this. I think that we get culture mixed up with lifestyle. I think we kind of get that mixed up. Because culture is kind of something that you inherit. I would think you kind of inherit culture, because whatever culture you have usually comes from your parents or grandparents, or say you're an immigrant from another country, you have a particular culture from that particular country, and you come to America and you live that culture, you do things a certain way, you eat a certain kind of food, you dress a certain way, you go to a particular house of worship, or whatever case may be. I think that is more like culture. I think lifestyle is more of a choice. Lifestyle is when you break away from whatever culture you inherited, if that makes any damn sense. You've inherited a certain culture from, I guess, your parents and your grandparents, and if you choose to live beyond or outside of that particular culture, I think that is lifestyle as opposed to culture. What you ladies think?
It might end up being subculture as well.
Mm-hmm.
The certain things end up spawning other stuff. It's still under the umbrella of the general cultural norms and mores, but it's like this subset. Typically, the youth creates subculture. You know what I'm saying? Like hip hop was subculture. For a long time, especially in its inception. Within the last couple of decades, it became a more mainstream thing. But when we watched it come about, that hip hop was definitely a subculture.
I agree with both of you guys' summation of it. Lifestyle is definitely a choice, and you can change your lifestyle frequently, especially depending on what that lifestyle is and the lifestyle choices you make. Whereas your culture is almost like letting your freak flag fly. You can't hide that sometimes. Damn as you may. I have locks. I used to have an earring in my nose. Just certain slang, even when I'm putting on my educated, Grey Poupon voice, you're still going to hear a twang and a little something to it because it comes from our culture. So I agree with the way that you guys kind of summed it up. Some people try to choose their cultures, and that's why they sometimes don't quite fit either, because they always have one foot in and one foot out. And I kind of went through that, especially if we want to talk subculture. Growing up in the south side of Chicago in Inglewood, Marquette Park area, but then going to high school in Hyde Park, those were two different cultures. On the Hyde Park, the east side of Chicago or whatever, they had a b-boy style, especially back at that time in the 90s. Think Far Side, Common, that flavor, carrying Eddie Bauer book bags, and stuff like that, where go back over Damon, crossing Western, none of that flavor is over there. Two different cultures. Which adds to some of the complexity of who I am as an individual, because I've always had one foot in, one foot out, going to a Catholic school from K through 8th, going outside of my neighborhood again, where they all went to the same school. We came from two different cultures. You went to public school. I went to Catholic school. It can really get that minute, or, deep in the details. And I can't hide some of those things. So.
Well, I think that, and I think it's slightly, there are two different things that happen with culture. One is that culture evolves. So it naturally will evolve over time and over generations. So there's that. And, as Kendra pointed out, there's also the subculture concept. So I think that's the thing. Like, when the youth as a whole, and it spreads across something like, say, hip hop, starts off as a subculture. But then once it spreads and normalizes throughout the group and it becomes the norm, it's no longer a subculture, it becomes part of the culture. And that's something normal that kind of happens within cultures, is that they're always kind of morphing and growing and evolving and becoming something new and different, which is how culture can stay alive. The problem would only kind of come into play if it's not a natural evolution that has happened slowly and, kind of permeated through the culture naturally, but it's something that, happens really suddenly, and it's due to violent shifts in, the environment or in the political culture that is in the larger society, et cetera, et cetera. That might not be a good thing, and that might be destabilizing for a particular group. But I think otherwise, that whole growing and changing and development of culture is a good thing.
I think sometimes lifestyle could break away from culture, but then there are also different types of lifestyles that you could have within a culture. So, like, for example, like say in Southern culture, you have people who farm. That's a way of life. But then you also have people like, say, in Louisiana, who live in the city as well. They're both Southern culture. It's just that, they're two different lifestyles. So you'll have some people who know how to do certain things, who will practice certain things. Or like, even right now, Mardi Gras is coming up in a couple of days. So no other place in the country besides like maybe Mississippi really celebrates Mardi Gras, but it would still be considered like American culture because it happens every year in New Orleans,
Well, let me ask you ladies about YouTube. Do you think that YouTube is this medium, is this spectrum, is this a culture? Is YouTube a culture, or is it a cult?
My God.
Or is it a cult?
Oh my goodness. It is. And sometimes it's even a cunt shit. YouTube is a mess. Okay. YouTube is a mess. I've even caught myself saying in these YouTube streets, like it's its own little world, like that I can touch sometimes. YouTube has created its own culture, subculture, way of life, like everything. YouTube, I was telling my husband the other day that I was so late to the YouTube game, considering I've had channels for 8 years and all this crap. Like I wasn't checking for YouTube like that. Now I'm barely checking for television or other forms of social media. Instagram was my number one. I don't even go on Instagram like that anymore. I don't have time. It's bullshit happening right now on YouTube that we missing having this hangout.
Exactly.
It's culture. Oh my God. And then we separate it and we talk about Black YouTube, and then, let's just break that on down. Let's, into the other parts. I mean, because maybe I'm coining this, but there is a section called Trap YouTube too, okay, in the Black sector. That is
they selling drugs.
They selling wrenches and stupid shit like that.
Selling wrenches.
Yes. Yes, girl, I call it Trap YouTube. That's what I say. I might have coined it, but that's offline. We can talk about who's all a part of that, But it's a whole nother section of YouTube. It is a culture unto itself. This was like brilliant. And I don't know how we can actually come back from this. Like, how do we even steer the ship in another direction? And that's the scary part. It feels out of control. It is so out of control. It's like seeing an accident. You don't want to look, but you can't help but look. I know that this is leading me to hell, but I log on every day.
Yep.
Girl, before I log on to YouTube, I just make my little registration in hell. I'll be like, I'm number 43.
Right.
Just highlight me 'cause
Beetlejuice, right?
I'm gonna tune in and act out, and it's so interwoven, and YouTube as well as all of the most popular social media, it's so interwoven. It can't be separated from the culture. at this point.
Mm.
It's no longer what the internet was in the 90s. You know, we were just coming into the internet as something that you used on somewhat of a regular basis. And we like me and you and me and brother X watched it develop from, you know, this really remedial type of media that didn't have a lot to it, because when I was a little kid and in high school and stuff like that, and freshman, sophomore, I was still going to the library and looking at Encyclopedia Britannica for
I
my
had a whole
reference
set,
information. Right, had a
microfiche
whole
and
set.
microfilm, learning how
So
to
you
go through that.
had that real big thick dictionary, you know, the table dictionary, and then you had all this other stuff. So we came up through having physical reference books that we needed to go back to in order to get
Cross-referencing.
knowledge and, you know, do research. And now, you know, it blossomed after I got into like because, you know, public school is slow, especially for Black people. So when white kids was doing it in 8th grade, we just started doing it in junior year. So you know, once I got into UIC, and then, you know, you go down into the computer lab, and now you can actually access some of this knowledge. And at that time, the internet was so-called small. It wasn't even this huge database of information yet, but it was getting there. It was definitely getting there. Like, you could see people putting these websites together and trying to streamline it to be user friendly, trying to rework it so that it will be more, it will be easier to access different information. You know what I'm saying? So now it progressed to the point where I can just talk into my phone, because we're carrying around little bitty computers that are actually rather powerful, that we had to spend $2,500 for when I was 13 or 14 or 15. You almost couldn't get a computer because it was so expensive and you were so poor. And
My
now
first,
you can get, it's an Obama phone. Really?
exactly. I remember how heavy my HP laptop was. It was so heavy in like 99, 2000. It was so heavy. And my first phone was an Ericsson. Y'all remember Ericsson phones? I bet they went out of
Girl,
business,
yeah.
I guess.
They were
It was an
huge.
Ericsson.
They were like the size of a brick.
No, I
It
think
had the
Sony
little
bought
flip.
them.
They did?
I think
Okay.
Sony
Well, I
Well,
love my little light HP laptop.
I had one and it was so heavy though. It was so heavy.
do you ladies feel that, do you think that the culture of YouTube, has it changed some of us as Black people? Has it changed some of us? Like, you know, has it changed our frame of mind?
I think it makes people more of what they are, because like Black people, a lot of Black people like attention. So they just go on and you know, YouTube is a place where people can get a lot of attention. So they just do a bunch of stuff for attention, you know? This isn't anything new. I mean, it's like hip hop in the 90s, how people would make diss tracks and stuff towards each other just to make, you know, just to sell albums and stuff. They do something similar here where they try to one up each other to get more attention.
Makes sense.
I think that because I think realistically, there are certainly, I would say, subcultures on YouTube. Like, you think about Black YouTube, same thing as Twitter, Black Twitter. Black Twitter is its own entity, despite the fact that there's no thing that is Black Twitter. It's just, but we all know what Black Twitter is, and we all know Black Twitter can drag somebody from here to next Tuesday, and it will shame their lives, right? Like, we know what that is, even though it's not a thing. So, you know, I think definitely, given there's Black YouTube, you know, within Black YouTube, we have further subcultures. You know, we have the manosphere, for example. So I think that, you know, going into the subcultures, and you know, what ends up happening is because these are subcultures of the main culture, which is, the culture that we live in North America, walking around and whatever. I think we go looking for what we want. So either something that reflects what we're already living in, or the truth or the reality as we see it in our heads, or we go looking for something that is the exact opposite of, the truth that we see in our heads. So as in, if we see everything to be bleak and meaningless, we go look for something that is happy and fulfilling. So I don't think that it has been set up in such a way that, at least at this time, that it's changing that many people. I'm sure there are people who are changing as a result, but I think what it's doing is it's allowing certain people maybe to be more themselves, or to drop their inhibitions, or to drop their masks that they show the world, pretending they are XYZ person or whatever. And it's allowing people to pretend they are something they're not. So maybe they're the most beautiful woman in the world, or they're, big man on campus, when their reality is nothing but. But I think currently the way that the subculture of YouTube is set up, it's really set up for us to go into our own corners and kind of stay there. So I think that certainly eventually, it will be a little bit more, I don't know if maybe it has to be more interconnected with life, more interconnected with other platforms. I'm not sure, but I do think that it definitely has the ability to change many more people than it currently is. I just think that some changes would need to happen.
I don't know that it's changed people so much. I do think that YouTube, along with other forms of social media, but I'm going to say YouTube, and to an extent, World Star, mainly because these are video-based websites rather than text-based, like Twitter and Instagram is more picture-based. Um, I think that it has made us more homogenous in our thinking, so that, even if in, let's say, what would be acceptable to do in, I don't know, Pennsylvania, wouldn't have been acceptable for, let's say, a young lady or a young man to do in the Bible Belt. But with YouTube and seeing it and constantly being kind of bombarded, we can touch each other now, over miles, people you don't know, and be influenced by people you don't know. So, like I said, a young lady, a young man may see somebody in, Buffalo, New York, doing something that they know would not have been acceptable that they can do, but they can do it now. You know what I'm saying? Because I think it gives a certain type of permission when you see something on YouTube, especially to teenagers and to young people. You know what I'm saying? It gives a certain permission. It's almost like they view it as a world that is detached from reality in a lot of ways. And they don't attach real world consequences to things that happen online. And you would think that I would be talking about a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old that, may have a problem distinguishing sometimes fantasy from reality anyway, just because they're so young. But then we're talking about also 17, 18, 19-year-olds that can't do it either. Like, for instance, I give you an example, and it's not YouTube, but I'll give you an example of how they don't attach real world consequences to stuff. Okay, so Xbox has a worldwide connection of Xbox Live. You can talk to anybody, you can play games with anybody. When they get mad at you, they'll SWAT you. And swatting is basically when they call the SWAT team on you, wherever you are. They hack, they find out where you are, your region, and they call the SWAT. They make up some story so that the SWAT team will actually come to your house.
Yes, I've seen that.
And
someone was killed behind that not too long ago.
Exactly. And not too long ago, somebody was killed. Now, see, that's an example of not thinking about real world consequences that could come from something that you do online. You see what I'm saying? That you in a heat of moment, somebody killed you on Call of Duty. You didn't like it, or you might have thought they was cheating or whatever. So you swatted them thinking it was funny.
Mm-hmm.
SWAT team came, actually physically came, because that's not a joke. SWAT team comes to your house, they mean business. The SWAT team
Yes.
come to mean business. They gonna kill somebody when they, because that's why they're called, because the regular police can't handle that situation. They come in deading people. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying? And
They
and that's
just
what happened.
they just killed a guy like I don't know, like
Mm.
2 weeks ago or something like that, because he got swatted, and they came there and they shot the guy dead. I mean, they killed him.
Mm.
Yeah, they killed him over some BS that wasn't even a real. That he's dead.
Exactly.
Mm.
He's dead. And they're
Mm.
gonna charge the person who made the call, because they can find
As
out.
well
You know,
they
they
should.
can find out who you are, and they're gonna charge that person with that murder. I mean, that's how that's gonna go. So that was pretty
Yep.
stupid to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
was stupid. Um,
Mm-hmm.
well, let's get into spirituality. Um, spirituality usually has a lot to do with religion or the act of being religious, right? So I want y'all to tell me what y'all think spirituality means.
I think there's a difference between religion and spirituality. Um, Spirituality means having like a connection with God, whereas like with religion, that's just something that you practice. That's like something, like a rules you have to follow religiously. That's why they call it religion. That you keep doing it over and over and over again, but that does not necessarily mean that you're spiritual.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I think as a
religion
go
is
ahead.
religion is more repetitious, as opposed to spirituality is more free spirited, with flowers and grass and birds. Go ahead,
Religion is
Lady
like
Nikki.
I would envision as Sister Nancy. She was my second grade teacher, and back when they would whoop your knuckles with the ruler, that's religion.
Mm,
Versus, like you said, the spirituality has a more bohemian kind of feel to it, I guess, more of a connectedness that you have that can't be explained or touched. It's more sense and felt, you know. That could also be a part of your culture, if you really want to tie it back, as could religion too. But they are definitely different. Different.
Yeah, definitely. I would say spirituality and religion can be two different things. I've met plenty of people. I've actually been one of those people who had or felt that there was a higher being, whether you attached a name to that being or not, that you were connected to, or at least some people would probably define it as a higher sense of self, rather than attach it to an external God figure. So spirituality does not have any of the constraints that a religion would actually have. And a lot of people avoid the word and the concept of a religion because that has actually bad connotation tied to it. Um, the connotation tied to religion is oftentimes blind faith. You have not asked questions. You have not questioned why you perform certain things, quote unquote, religiously. You just are doing it because maybe your mother taught you, or maybe that was the religion of your household or your family or your, culture. That was the religion of your culture. So that is what you assumed. It's also assumed that if you have a religion, uh, especially if you grew up with that same religion and you maintain it throughout your adulthood, it's often assumed that you did not ask anything about it. Or you didn't try to think about why. you follow this religion, or whether or not, or try to ascertain whether or not you really believe it, or is this something that just got ingrained in you and you just accept it because, hey, you ain't got nothing else going on, you know.
I think for me, religion is basically it's a structured set of rules and guidelines that have a hierarchy and have a reward and punishment system for what rewards you will get for following the rules and what punishments you get for not doing so. So ultimately, I think religion was superimposed upon spiritual beliefs as a way of basically, for lack of words, controlling the masses. It allows people, basically, when you give religion to a giant population of people, let's say 10 million people or whatever, and there are people who are very poor and people who, of course, the tiny percentage people very rich and everyone else in the middle. If you have them focus on something like money and on worldly gains, the people who are at the poorest levels are probably not going to want to sit there and let the 1% of people just continue raking it in and having all the riches and eating all the best foods and whatever while they're starving over there. But there are, like, for example, in some Indian religions, you have a beggar, like, someone who we would consider a beggar or a homeless person, they clearly want our money. And they sit at the temple, and if you try to give them money, they spit on you and slap it out of your hand, because the way that they believe is that their karma, basically, or I guess dharma, is what made them poor in this lifetime. So the only way they can build good karma is for them to sit there and be poor and be starving, and then in their next life they will get something better. So, and you can see this in all of the oldest religions. Ultimately, all of them have some aspect that's in there that's all about telling you not just about a spiritual life or a personal relationship with God or gods, depending on the religion, but it also has to do a lot with your social structure and with whether or not, what should you do about riches or about, even coveting thy neighbor. That's in the Ten Commandments. So, it just tells you a lot about what religion is there for, and it's there to give you rules, and it's there to give structure, and it's there really to help, I guess, guide and more so control society, whereby I think spirituality is that underlying factor that that is actually a belief in God and an actual belief in, say, heaven or hell or whatever it is, and the actual beliefs that, say Jesus walked or whatever it is. I think that underlying belief is spirituality, or whatever your beliefs are, and I think that the structure and all the other stuff imposed on top of that is religion.
Very interesting. Anyone else? Can y'all hear me?
I think we
Yes,
all
we
went.
hear you.
Yeah, I think we all went.
Did everyone have their turn?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I had to move out for a little bit because my poster was falling down.
Oh.
All right. Well, when we think about spirituality, like you ladies said, religion has more rules to it. It's like, if you do this, you'll go to hell or heaven. If you don't do this, you'll go to hell or heaven. It's more like that. With religion, you should do this and not do that. When you're talking about spirituality, though, spirituality is a little more subjective. You know what I'm saying? It's based on what you think and feel, as opposed to, what you read out of a book or what someone teaches you, or, it's based on what you think and feel, because you can be spiritual about a tree. You know what I'm saying? You can be spiritual about an ant. You know what I'm saying? You can be spiritual about anything. Whereas religion has a set of guidelines and a set of, regulations that you must do this, you must do that. So let me ask you, ladies, before we go on, Unicorn 4, are you ladies spiritual, cultural, religious? I mean, what would you classify
Well,
yourselves?
you know, on the one hand, I agree with you about your synopsis of the differences between religion and spirituality. But then on the other hand, I disagree. Insofar as that, as far as I see it, first of all, because that is the part of the subjectivity of the whole spirituality conversation. But religion, you're right, there are hardcore rules and laws and all of those other things. But in spirituality, there are still the same laws there as well. They're just they're a little bit more fluid perhaps, and because there's so many different and varying branches of spirituality, the rules can get muddled or appear as if they disappear when really they're still there. There was a point in time in my life where I had a huge, and I'll say over the last 5 years, problem with my soul immortality and where is my soul going and ascending and things like that. So, in order to ascend, there are rules to that too. There are laws, or if you don't do this, that, and the third, and especially if you believe in like reincarnation and how that all ties into ascending and going to higher dimensions and what happens to your soul and things like that. So there, it may appear as if there's no laws or no rules, but I think that's just because people haven't delved deep enough to get to the laws and the rules. On the surface, people play. It's like people think they understand spirituality because they understand horoscopes and astrology. And it gets a little deeper than that, and then it starts to branch off in other variant aspects of those things and what you choose to believe and deal with. Or are you one of those people who take a hodgepodge of things and then you try to build your own? And those usually probably are the lost people, because I do believe personally that you in spirituality, you may not have to believe in one deity or one god, but you definitely have to subscribe to some train of thought, or you're still just spinning your wheels and not making good time of your time here on earth. Whatever you think that time here on earth is supposed to do or be named, or stigmatized as, I feel you're going to continue to repeat it if you don't get some grasp or handle on who you are and what you're here to do. Because one thing I think we all agree about is that there is an end.
Mm. So
So
are
what
you
happens
spiritual?
there?
Are
I'm
you
more
more
I'm spiritual
more
more so
spiritual?
than religious.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next up.
I think if I have to answer the question, I'm both spiritual and religious. Um, having been raised in a missionary Baptist church and family, the concept of a God was always present. Now, what I believed about that God changed over time. And I call that was my spiritual journey.
Hmm.
It started at about 12. Think about 12 or 13 was my first time reading a book called Nile Valley Civilizations. And then I read the Bible at least 3 times from cover to cover, back to back. And then after I was done with that at about 14 or so, I denounced Christianity as a construct. But I had separated the concept of Christianity from God. I had separated the two things.
Mm.
And I think that while various religions have been utilized to control masses of people, try to control a narrative, I don't paint all religion in one brush and say, well, it's all bad because someone was able to use it for an evil purpose. That's just like saying, well, guns are evil because people kill people wantonly with them. It has nothing to do with the gun. It has everything to do with the intention of the person wielding it. Because if I go out and randomly shoot 10 people for no reason, I'm a murderer. If I take that same gun and shoot a person who has invaded my home and who is intent upon killing me, I defended myself. So it's all about the intention for why you're doing what you're doing. With that being said, I never believed that spirituality was to be separated from what we deem as religion. For example, when Jesus was talking to the scholars in his area, he got on them, the elders and the scholars and the rabbis. He said, "You keep the letter of the law, but not the spirit of it." And he was condemning them on that point. And what he meant by that was, you've got it written down. You know what it says. You know the rule, but you don't understand the concept behind the rule. You don't get the spirituality of the rule, why the rule is there. The rule is not there just to be a rule. The rule is there to add a construct to the spirituality and not let it to be just freewheeling, because a freewheeling spirituality ends up being whatever the hell I want it to be. And when you're whatever the hell you want to be, and all of it is subjective, then you can't argue what's truth and what's not. And for many people, you can't do it anyway, because they feel like, God, the existence of God in and of itself is unprovable. So therefore, you can't talk about truth and not truth when you talk about spirituality, religion, or God. But for those of us who actually believe in a God, most of us, or at least some of us, do align that with truth or not truth, if that makes any sense at all to anybody that's listening to it.
It makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
It makes sense. Oh, we have been joined by Teacher Tanisha up in here. What's
Peace
going
and
on?
bliss.
Everybody. How you doing? Blessings, everybody.
Hey, girl.
Yeah. So that's about it. And I would consider myself to be both, mainly because I don't separate spirituality from my way of life. The rules have a reason for me personally. They're not just there to be rules so that I could be bogged down with a bunch of different little petty rules just for the hell of it. They're there for a reason. Nobody can make me do them. You know what I'm saying? God is not even making me do them, even though I believe them to be his orders. And I'm going to leave you with this. The Quran says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي. And what that means is there is no compulsion in deen, for verily the right way has been distinguished from the wrong way.
Oh, Lady Kendra, I don't know. You just
love her to death.
You just leave me speechless sometime, lady. You just leave me speechless. I can't even say nothing. Next up.
Is there anyone but me? I don't really want to go after that. I don't know how I could follow that up.
Hard to follow that,
I'll follow up someone else. But
go ahead.
I think that, for me at least, I am neither, and I will explain that. So I would not be spiritual. I'm not the type of person. I actually would prefer the structure and the rules and all that other stuff that are set out in religion. I like to know what, why, where, when, how. I want someone to tell me that, and if you give me those parameters, I function better than the more free-flowing, less defined concept of spirituality. However, with that being said, I am a proud backslider now, going on about 17 years. And Yeah, I'm a proud backslider. I don't really see that. Well, at least that is not going to currently change in the state and present of the way it is. Currently, there is no relationship between me and God because I'm not speaking to God until I feel God apologizes for some things. He knows what it's about. Until that happens, we're not on speaking terms. Now, with that being said, even if we were to be on speaking terms, me returning to my religion, or I guess the religion that I guess I bonded to the closest, that's not really going to really be a thing. And the reason why is because I'm either in it or I'm not. I'm not the type of person to be wishy-washy. I'm not the type of person who does half measures. I'm either in or I'm out. And with many of the religions, including my own religion, which is apostolic, I disagree just with some things that Christianity in and of itself upholds and preaches. I disagree so wholeheartedly that it would be impossible for me to be a good Christian because I disagree. And I think when you have disagreements to that level in life, normally, you get divorced, you end the friendship, whatever the case is. So my issue would be that the religions that are currently available that come anywhere near my belief system still are in direct opposition with many things I believe and that I have picked up on in life, and I believe strongly from science. So right now, I just got to say neither. Like, I believe in God. Like I said, I halfway believe in, well, I guess I mostly believe in the apostolic religion, except for the place where Christianity and me just don't get along in general. So yeah, I just got to go with neither.
Lady Katz.
I'm more on along the lines of what Kendra said. I'm both spiritual and religious because I do practice a religion, and I do believe in God. And sadly, I do think that they have been separated a lot, like in how a lot of people practice it, particularly in the Christian church. Like I go to a Baptist church, right? And there are certain things that you're not supposed to do, and yet people for show will do certain things. Like when you take communion, I remember my grandfather used to tell me that you're not supposed to take communion if you haven't forgiven certain people or something. And so there would be some Sundays where he wouldn't take it because he'd be angry with someone. He'd still be angry with someone. So, because of the rules of like our church, he wouldn't take communion. And yet you would see people committing all types of stuff like sin and stuff. And they would still take the communion just to make themselves look good. Like they're not having a pure heart when they do it. So, there's just a lot of fakeness that goes around with it. And so, unfortunately, it's been separated, even though it shouldn't be. So, yeah, that's basically where I stand on that.
Well, Teach, when you came in, I was asking the Unicorn 4, were they spiritual or religious? I guess I'll ask you that too. Are you spiritual or religious?
Well, I would say that I'm spiritual, because I deal with things of the spirit. And being spiritual, I do have a spiritual practice that I do practice. As far as like African and indigenous original, way of life is concerned. But when it comes to religion, I do have a form of respect for it, of course, because I was raised Christian, Baptist, been in Pentecostal church, read the Quran, took Shahada, did all of that. And religion showed me that I was spiritual. And what I mean by that is, in every religion that I practice, because I grew up a Christian Baptist, like I said, and went to Pentecostal churches, went into Hebrew Israelite, learned all about that, went into Islam, learned all about that. And from there went into African and indigenous religion, whatever y'all want to call it, because there's many of them, just like as many different forms of Christianity and Islam, and you got different Muslims, you got Sunni, you got, everybody has their own group. So I don't want to put a specific category out there and say, oh, this is, indigenous or African religion. I mean, spirituality part. And so that's why I'm not naming it. But I do see throughout each of my journeys in these religions that my spiritual self was always the same. So for me, it was a growth process into my spirituality, becoming more grounded in it, and having my own personal relationship with the Creator without feeling judgment for things, within knowing that I have to move a certain way, do things a certain way, just, out of kindness of my heart, or out of just living right and treating people right. That's just who I am as a person. So through my religious experiences and growing in that, it showed me that as an individual, my spiritual relationship was always the same with the Creator. And it also showed me that there is no differences in religions, as society likes to put barriers in between each one, as if there's a difference or as if one is greater than the other. The reason why I'm saying that is because in growing and learning different religions, it showed me that my relationship with the Creator was my own. It didn't matter if I missed a Sabbath and didn't, observe it, or if I didn't go to Juma one Friday, or if I didn't, like the sister said, take communion or go to church on a Sunday or whatever. I wasn't bound by rules, because I knew that living a certain way and treating people a certain way and treating myself a certain way, which is good, which is up, which is positive, regardless of any religion I was in, brought a certain kind of energy. So it wasn't about, oh, if I do this, and then if I do Christianity, and then I leave that and go into learning Hebrew Israelite, or leave that and then go into learning Islam. My relationship with the Creator didn't change. It grew. It got stronger. I didn't feel like I was being penalized because the truth that the Creator said in one book and the truth that He said in another book, it couldn't conflict with me. It wasn't, I'm trying to find the right words. It wasn't as if it was a fight between each of them. I saw the similarities in it. I felt the Creator when I was in church. I felt the Creator when I was in a Hebrew Israelite temple. I felt the Creator when I was in masjid. I felt the Creator when I'm doing spiritual practices, or when I'm at my Boveda, which is my ancestral altar. Because the Creator is in me. So it showed me that I had my own personal relationship with the Creator. It wasn't about what title I gave myself, It was about how I lived. And Yoruba tradition, they have something called Iwe Pele, which means good character. So that's what you are judged on, based on how you live here on the earth. Do you have good character? Were your intentions good when you went to go do something? Or were you a person that was running around trying to, cause havoc or rob people or whatever it might be, which also gets penalized for? I think that everybody trying to find differences in people's ways of life is what causes the
strife,
confusion, which causes, the arguments, which causes the religious debates. that to me, and it within itself, is very vain. It's kind of like you don't really believe that there is a creator, because there would never be a issue or use for debate, because if you know that the creator exists, you know that the Most High brings everybody to their own knowledge and their own understanding one at a time. So I can't put somebody down because they may not be aware of certain things or have the same knowledge that I do. I might not agree with them. I might could take their book and make them not really feel too good because they saying one thing. I could show them whatever. Look at this, look at that, however, and show them that they not even living, you know what I'm saying, their way of life that they're debating about. And so for me, it's spirituality, but I will say that religious doctrine and different ideologies of thought and religious teachings did help to grow my spiritual self. I do know that, a lot of us were forced to be raised a certain way, due to, like people say, due to white supremacy and oppression. You know what I'm saying? It was never anything that was supposed to be good when it came to, so-called Black people, Moors, whatever y'all want to call us. Okay. It wasn't anything to be allowed to be spiritually intact and inclined and be spiritually connected to our culture. You understand what I'm saying? Because naturally we are indigenous people of this land, and naturally we are people of African descent as well, because a lot of us are mixed with both bloodlines. That's just what it is. So for me personally, I take my spirituality of indigenous and African teachings to help grow myself and my family.
Well, hey, what's good, Brother Faulkner? We've talked about the Black church on this platform before. And so now I want to talk about religion, because unfortunately a lot of us, we grow up, in church. We grow up, we raise, our parents are church folks. I know mines were, they were church folks, and a lot of us we grow up in a religion. All right, even if we're not religious, a religion dictates our household somehow, some way, whether it be through who our parents are or how our parents raise us and rear us. Religion usually has something to do with it. Like we talked about earlier, ladies, religion is more organized. It's more structured. There's more rules. There's more can and can'ts involved with religion as opposed to culture and spirituality. So let me ask you ladies this. What do you think? And I think I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Really? What do you think religion has done to Black society in a whole? Religion itself, not any particular religion, but I'm talking about religion itself. What has been the effect on Black society?
I think religion itself has almost like re-victimized Black society. I think it's held it back, generally speaking. Not everybody has that experience with religion as Black, but just generally speaking, because it has you living on the hope and the wish, wishing on a star or by a wing and a prayer, instead of actually doing something for yourself. Now, granted, growing up, I used to say this thing that God helps those who help themselves, and stuff like that. They try to use religion to instill even cleanliness is next to holiness and stuff like that. But in actual practice, outside of that, it's really all about your reward will be in your suffering. As if to do anything for yourself or to better yourself is in straight contradiction to what God would have you do, which is not true. Because to not even do anything for yourself, and you barely even do anything for other people other than maybe the pastor of the church, it's really not doing anything. And we know that the congregation isn't doing anything. That's indicative by looking around the church. You can look at the nasty streets and the drug dealers and how that churches used to feed you during the church service. Hell, it kept you going to the before and after church. I don't even think they do that anymore. I haven't been to a church in so long that didn't had a meal and they just fed. I mean, like it just doesn't happen anymore. So I feel like it almost like re-victimized you because it's not like people aren't using it to preach strength, and then when they do use it to preach strength, it's negative strength, it's destructive strength. It's strength that's not even really real. It's not even it just doesn't help the cause at all. So I guess bottom line, I just feel like religion has just re-victimized the Black community all over again, and continues to do so every Sunday.
I've got, I think that for Blacks, it has been both a negative and a positive. It has been a negative in the ways that Lady Ming just enumerated. The victim mentality, going against your nature. And one of the first laws of nature is self-preservation. The Creator would never have you go against your nature. Okay. For example, Muslims are forbidden from eating pork. Everybody knows that. Okay. But if you're starving, guess what you can eat? So the Creator would never have you to actually go against your nature, because your nature is self-preservation. And I have not eaten pork in almost 30 years. But if I'm starving, and I don't mean a little hungry, I mean I'm gonna die if I don't get something. And the next thing that walked past me is a hog. He on and popping. He about to get ate.
You eat a pig.
You see what I'm saying?
You eat a pig
Because
foot.
I suck on a pig toe. You got
On the hoof.
Right. So, first of all, the Creator would never have you to actually work against your own nature. So not doing anything for yourself in order to better your own situation is working against your nature, because it works against self-preservation. However, it has been a positive, because I don't think a lot of us would have made it without the concept of hope, and the hope that belief in a God that could actually give you the strength to carry on helped, because you had to have something, because the reality of the situation was so bleak that you needed to believe in something, or else lay down and die. What we have been given historically in this country, and it has been named Christianity, was nothing more than the bastardized form of it that had been created in the Council of Nicaea. And the dominant society did what they always do, which was create a law in a board meeting to give to you. So that's basically what happened. Those things, and the way in which they spoon-fed, because see, this is how you know it was a bastardized form, because I'm giving you something, but I'm forbidding you to actually seek that knowledge on your own. So I forbid you to read the book that I'm coming from, while I'm telling you that this book says that you're to worship me. Okay. So I'm forbidding you and debarring you from actually making your own decision about God and about your own spirituality. At the same time, I'm force feeding you this religion and daring you to practice whatever form of spirituality that you were practicing before. So the way in which it was given to our ancestors had, and I think sometimes some of us lose sight of that. It had nothing to do with what Jesus was actually talking about. Because the stuff that, if you read what Jesus is actually talking about, he wasn't talking about that defeatist stuff. He was a revolutionary. He was coming
Mhm.
through changing the game. You know what I'm saying? This is why they plotted to kill him. That was the purpose of that. Because if he wasn't rattling no cages, he would not have been of any concern to the higher ups. Okay? So he wasn't lulling them to sleep, he was waking them up. And so that was not given to our ancestors. That part was not given to our ancestors. It was the other stuff that was misconstrued, taken out of context, put a different way, repackaged, and then handed to you. And that was supposed to be your religion. Unfortunately, we carry it still like that. A lot of us refuse to actually read the book that we grew up on. You know what I'm saying? And I don't care if you became an atheist later. You should have at least read the book you grew up on, so you'll know what you disagree with. You know what I'm saying? So you'll know what you don't like.
Mhm.
Right.
I think religion for Black people, unfortunately, it's like made Black people kind of more divided with each other. Like when Black people pick up a certain belief, it doesn't matter if it's Christianity, Islam, whatever. Like a lot of us have a tendency to go like full force, like just be the most staunch member of that religion that you could possibly be, to the point to where like I'll see a lot of Black people, whether it be online or in person, they'll argue with each other over which religion's better for Black people, and they'll get to mudslinging and, well, your religion's stupid, no, you're stupid, and all that. And I'm just like, look, man, I don't care if a Black person is an atheist or Christian, Muslim or whatever. I'm still gonna, show them the respect that they deserve. And I'm not gonna call somebody stupid just because they believe in something different than I do. And you know, when you look at people of other races, you have a lot of people, like, say, like with white people, they have a bunch of different religions too, but you don't see them, insulting each other like at the same level as we'll do to each other, And I mean, it's just sad because that, like, it causes like more of a division amongst us. And but I will say that like some of the positive things that religion has done for Black people, like in America, is that, I mean, back in the 60s, you had Congress people who would come to the church, and the church was more influential politically speaking. And you had the Nation of Islam. They had all those businesses that they had started.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish that, the religions that Black people practice today would be more like how it was back in the 60s. But, you know, that's basically my take on it.
Well, I think the thing is, for me at least, is that when I look at religion now, I don't think that religion, I mean, I think it's a cycle to an extent, obviously, but I don't think it's the case that religion has come and, ruined Black society as much as religion is a very visible effect, based on the fact that there's something wrong with our culture as is. There's something wrong with the Black community. The Black community is incredibly fractured. And when you look at our religions, you look at our churches, you look at all of the destruction going on in something that's supposed to be safe and sacred and holy, it is a reflection of an already fractured community. That is to say that we have all been basically spoon fed and force fed and, jam packed with Christianity since slavery days. So that isn't what changed. We have been able to use Christianity and our beliefs in Christianity to weather storms, to be able to get through the worst of things. And, we've been able to use that to strengthen ourselves and, kind of get to that place where like, no matter what, that mental fortitude, I'm going to get through, I'm going to fight, I'm not going to cry and bullshit and, sit down and die here. And I know that even if the fruits of my labors aren't visited upon me here in this life, they'll be visited upon me in heaven, because, God knows what I'm going through. Sort of kind of the quote unquote deal, which is very different from the attitude we have now, which is, well, if I sit on my ass and I don't, murder anyone directly, and when I cheat on my husband, I say I'm sorry and show up in church on Sunday, then that should be enough, and I'll be able to get to heaven. That's a very different mentality, right? And the mentality change didn't happen because Christianity taught us the mentality change, right? So I think that okay, and then, yes, there are other religions, obviously, but I'm going to talk about the Black Christian Church because that's what I'm most familiar with. And I just got to say again, I do think that ultimately it's a mirror. Looking at the Black Christian Church, looking at these prosperity gospel preachers and whatever, it is literally holding up a mirror to us and to what is going on in the greater community. And I think that identifying what we are in the Black church, we can literally just look and see that that's exactly the same type of fracturing we have in the community.
Deej?
Mango. Okay, well, I think the effect that religion has had on Black people as a whole, including here in the diaspora, is it taught us not to think for ourselves. It taught us not to question everyday life. The reason why I said that is because it's follow this. There's a certain protocol for any religion. There's a certain protocol. There's certain things that you have to do. And every answer for every life situation is within those protocols or, steps and so forth and so on. But in reality, that's not life. That's not it. It really, to me, doesn't make no sense. It puts you in a mindset where you're always, like, by God, you're always being judged. You're always being criticized or looked down upon. And if you made a mistake and didn't do something that you feel you should have within your religious beliefs and within your religious text, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to be punished, or I'm not going to be forgiven. It puts us in a mind state that God is, do what I say or I'm going to kill you. And that's reality, because everybody that's follows like a religion is doing it. We talking about as a whole, as a group of Black people, doing it because they want to feel accepted by God. They want to feel as if okay, well, if I do, and I have to do this and I have to do that like this, because if I don't, oh my God, God is not going to forgive me. God is not going to love me. And it's kind of cruel, is a cruel mindset, because why would the Creator that made you out of love, that allowed you to come forth on this earth, not give a damn about you, or not want you to move forward just because, I'm a jealous God and these people over there is worshiping some other God, so go kill all the women and children? It's just like a mindset. Like, really, does the Creator really want you to do that? Like, the Creator is creator of all things. If the Most High is in control of all things in this realm and all other realms, okay, why would the Creator feel a need to do that? Okay, so that's when religious leaders come in and use that mindset of the people against them and start to, pimp them and make them basically in turn worship the religious leader. Because at that point, it's not even worship of the Creator. So I want to make Pastor so-and-so happy, or Imam so-and-so said this and that, so let me make sure, I get the sisters thing together, like everything got to be a certain type of way. Where's the heart chakra playing a part in your relationship with the Creator? That's why I said religion has showed me that I have a spiritual connection to the Most High. that I have and nobody else have. Everybody have their own individual relationship with the creator. But when you go on by religion, it's like everybody has to have the same exact relationship with the creator, and that's not reality. The Most High lets us know that that's not reality. And when going to our original cultures and how we did things, we didn't even teach like that. We didn't even put energy out there like that to make people think that the creator was against you, or to be like, oh, because I give thanks to my ancestors that came before me, that means that you don't love God, or you're not appreciative to God, so you go burn in hell. No, it don't go like that. You understand what I'm saying? It's a mindset. And the mindset of religion, period, point blank, fucked up Black people. That's it. Bottom line.
Well, when you talk about religion, I mean, if you consider yourself to be religious, because what does religious mean? Religious means relating to or manifesting faithful devotion to an acknowledged ultimate reality or deity or religious person, a religious attitude. So if you are a religious person or you are part of a religion, you ultimately believe in God or a God. You have to believe in a God or God to be quote unquote religious. Okay. I think that's the main thing that separates culture, spirituality, and religion. I mean, you can be spiritual and believe in a God or God.
Right, exactly.
But if you're religious, that the rule is set. Because you can be cultural and not believe in a God. You can be spiritual and not believe in a God. But if you claim to be religious, you believe in God or some form of God. So if you are a religious person inside of a religion, you are meant to adhere to certain parameters in which you have to live your life. Okay, your life, you live within a certain parameter, whether those parameters are very, very small or very, very big, you live within those parameters due to the fact that you believe in a God and you must apply by the rules of said God that you believe in, usually promulgated by someone who is an agent of God, if you will, whether it be the pastor or the imam or the priest or the bishop or the whoever. They are
a vessel.
Yeah, they are the so-called vessel of whatever religion you claim to be a part of. Religion, I think religion works for certain people. I think religion is good for people who are devoted to that religion and apply that religion in its true form. The problem with religion, as far as Black society is concerned, is that a lot of people have taken religion and used it. I like to say they use it as a shield and a sword, because they will take that religion and they will beat you over the head with it.
Yes, you ain't lying.
They will strike you with that religion, but when they are doing something that is out of the parameters of said
Then
religion,
they are soft with
You better not say nothing to them. You can't tell them nothing.
The religion becomes a shield. So it goes from sword to shield. Yeah, depending on who it is. Now, me myself, I do believe that there is a God. I don't know what that God is or what that God has chosen me to do, but I do believe that there is some form of God. I don't put a label on it. I don't put a description on it. I don't put a description on the power of said God or the lack thereof of power.
I'm in a box. Yeah, facts. Like, go ahead.
I do believe in a God, but I feel that a lot of people who claim to work for God do not.
Exactly.
Do not. Okay. I believe that wholeheartedly. mainly because I was raised by church folks. And
Right. No, right.
It's all over
and
the
I
place.
watched them, and I knew they did work.
Right.
They did work for God.
Right.
But you know what?
Okay.
Right.
I'll interject here. And you know something that Teach was saying that, and this is, I'm just gonna say these are my beliefs. These I'm gonna come from an Islamic standpoint. And she was saying how when she was, you know, a part of this religion, that religion, this religion, it strengthened her spirituality rather than detracted from it. And I think that is the whole point, is to be strengthened by it. Religion, really actually hate to name what I do a religion. The Arabic term for it is deen, and a
Way of life.
deen
Right.
is your life. So
Mhm.
Islam is not something I can pick up and put down. It's not something, at least for me, that has anything to do with whether or not I go to Jumu'ah or not. You see what I'm saying? Or, you know, Islam is not tied to a specific item or place or any of that. And it also goes back to what I mentioned before when Jesus was talking to the rabbis and the elders. He said, you know, the letter of the law, but not the spirit. It's an Islamic belief that there has never been anything but one way of life. There has never been a split. We split it. We say Islam and Christianity and Judaism and, you know, Hinduism and pantheism and, you know, all these other things. We've done that. But the Creator has always had a singular message that has been given to mankind. And that message has been given to the various nations. And it has been given to them in a way that they can digest. And in a way that they can understand. And I'm not going to get too far into it. I could, but it kind of misses the point. I'll get lost in the detail. But it has evolved, and it has meant to evolve at the pace that mankind evolves and at the pace that our intelligence evolves. And it was never meant to be something that divided. It was always meant as something that brought together. Now, the nature of man is that we're going to fight. We're going to fight over ideals. We're going to fight over resources. We're going to fight over, you name it. We fought over it. And I'll just relay this a little bit to you because I got a point. I'm winding to a point.
It's okay, Lady King. It's okay.
The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, one day was in the masjid and he made a prayer to God. And one of his prayers was that his ummah, his family, his the believers would not fight among themselves after he passed away. And Allah came back and answered, no, I don't accept that prayer. I don't accept that prayer. They will fight among each other. And they will split themselves into sects. They will split. This is just reality. And it goes back to what I said before. The Creator never has you to act against your nature. It's the nature of man to fight, especially between ideals. This is how we got the Sunnis and the Shiites. You know what the real deal with the Shiites and the Sunnis was? That whole deal came about. That was a political thing. The Shiites really came about because they thought that Ali, which was the nephew of the Prophet, should have been the next in line for the Caliphate, for leadership position. He wasn't. It was Abu Bakr, which was not related to the Prophet. They split off. It was a split. It was a big split. And Islamic history, see, I don't have blinders on. Islamic history is rife with the Muslims fighting. You know what I'm saying? It's bloody. A lot
Yeah,
of
but
war.
they did just
You
as
know what I'm
much
saying?
killing as the Christians did.
A lot of war, and all of that stuff. And at the time that the prophet made that prayer, or he wished that we wouldn't fight among each other, he cried when the answer came back in a negative. Like, nope, this is gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And it kind of almost has to. And he cried because he didn't like the idea of dividing after the message had been so clear, which is where we come to what I said before about what the Quran says. There's no compulsion in deen, for verily the right way has been made distinct from the wrong way. So we're not going to make you do any of it. And so the point that I'm winding down to is that spirituality was never meant to be put in a box by the parameters of the religion. The parameters of the religion was there to help you expand your understanding of spirituality. It was there to help you develop and grow into it. That's what it was there to do. The understanding of the way the world works, who the creator is, the spiritual, all of the ways in which we fit into this world, physically, spiritually, mentally. You know what I'm saying? These things are to be expanded, not placed in a little bitty box that you can never step outside of, you know what I'm saying? And or else, you're gonna get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, the prayer that I do 5 times a day is for my spiritual benefit. God isn't bothered by whether I do it or not. He's not bothered by that. It doesn't diminish him. It doesn't raise him. That's for me to do. That's for me to meditate. That's for me to gain a higher spiritual understanding of my place in this world. Allah says that my mercy will be flung open for you in as much as your failings when it comes to worshiping me, mainly because you can't see me. Your belief in me is a matter of faith. So you may have strayed in that, and I'm merciful in that. But what I won't be lenient in is what you owed to each other, meaning the people, your brothers and sisters, because you were here on earth together. You saw them. That was not a matter of faith. So he's more strict on whether or not I give the proper rights to my brothers and sisters in this world, whether they're, and I don't mean just my Muslim brothers and sisters, I mean people in general. I am to conduct myself in a specific manner with them. I am to have good character with them. Okay, I'm not supposed to do what you said, Brother X, have the sword and the shield. When it come to them, I got a sword. When it come to me, I got the shield. And people do that. Christians do it. Muslims do it. People do that. People do it all the time. So that's more or less what I was more just agreeing with what you said and with what Teach was saying.
Well, what do you think? What do you ladies think Black society needs? Does Black society need more culture, more spirituality, more religion, a combination thereof, or none of it? Or none of it? What do you think Black society, what would help Black society more? More culture?
Black society need to use their damn brain. I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. It comes down to, really, it comes down to people like using their brain. Wherever you see to fit, to praise the creator, however you choose to do that, whatever you choose to call yourself, however you choose to go about it, that's everybody. Everybody has their own individual relationship, as I said earlier. But where is it has to be like I know it's so cliche if I say it, but I'm going to say it, like a unity and like all of this, wonderful things going on in order for us to even come together as anything. I mean, we so stuck into differences instead of being what's the similarities about. I think everybody needs to work on that note, because like I said, I stated in the last show that I was on, we was talking about the church and stuff. It was a point in time where, and that's another thing too, I want to point out real quick. Before religion came about, we already had structures. We already knew the creator in different ways. You understand what I'm saying? Different thought process came about from other races of people. But as far as Black people, we always had a relationship with the creator. We always had a way to honor the creator and become one with him and be, pious and be, humble and dedicated to the creator. We just went by different names, just like now everybody got a different name for the creator, but they fight over the name, but the creator says, I got 99 names. So which one you go pick? I'm just saying, it's everybody get caught up on the small insignificant things. But when it come time for you and the creator to be, as people say, face to face, or for you to be in the presence of the creator, you're going to be judged off of how you did things. Did you try to fulfill your destiny? And it's different now, because prior to form religions coming about, we went about things a certain way. You understand? Even if I called the creator Allah and you called the creator Jehovah, it wasn't no beef. And if we thought that it was going to be a beef or a war or some crazy shit, guess what? Your son and my daughter go get married because we not doing this shit. We go combine the kingdoms and, we go do that.
Exactly.
You understand? It was a way to have everybody. In other words, going back to my first thing that I was saying, everybody found similarities. I mean, to go off of differences, people could go off of differences all damn day. I got dreads, you got an afro. I got, I wear a size 6.5 and you wear a size 5, whatever. People can find differences for bullshit to argue all day long. It's getting past that. It's using the mind, open the mind. You understand what I'm saying? And not putting out there, because I know everybody say and not to even bring up these people. What you says Udabalahi and the Shaitan. Okay. Anyway, we're going to say that because I'm about to bring up the Illuminati. I'm sorry. They say that when it was established, everybody went off of my Arabic ain't that good, sis. But everybody went off of it's the mind, and we're not going to teach people to worship a god anymore and this and that. It's about the mind of man. And all. I don't mean like that. When I'm saying open your mind and using your mind, it's using your mind to think, to have discernment. Right? We was doing discernment last show I was on. It's about that. It's about having common sense. At one point in time, we were to a point where everybody knew what your destiny was going to be. I mean, like, by the time you was a week old or 2 weeks old, depending on if you was a boy or girl, certain divination was done, and they were allowed to do that. They wasn't allowed to do that. Creator when they gave them no knowledge to do that. But it was an order. Everybody couldn't go running around do it. It was an order in everything. It was an order in everything. And I guess you could say, or people would say, because of that, it seemed to be something religious, but it's a different ideology and a different tone to it. If things back then were considered a religion based off of different tribes and sects and so forth, this tribe is this religion, natural, however, it was still a spiritual connection to the creator. Now it's all about what most, religions and most. And I'm not talking about individuals, because if you're an individual and you follow your way of life and you have your a relationship with the creator, something totally different. But as far as group wise, as far as leadership wise in these different places, it's more, who's the best this, who came like this, who was just the flyest at church, you know what I'm saying? Like, who came, to the gathering for, whatever, or I saw so-and-so break their fast early. It's just like, it's everything else but the spiritual connection to the creator. And that's what we got to go forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that we don't need more of culture, spirituality, or religion. Not that we have all we need, but we have all that we're able to digest right now. Any more will be gluttonous because we haven't built up the appetite. I mean, we haven't built up the appetite or the stomach for what we already have. Like let's take religion. Kendra said she read the Bible cover to cover 3 times. You have hardcore Christians out here who haven't even read it once. Spirituality, I mentioned a couple things about ascension and things like that. People who claim themselves to be spiritual don't even understand what I'm talking about, and that's just the basics and stuff like that. Then when we get into culture, some people don't even understand the significance of things like locks, or why you don't want to call them dreadlocks, or different garb or foods or things like that. They don't know any of this stuff. So to give them more would be doing them a disservice because the foundation hasn't been properly laid. Now, granted, a lot of us, the foundation has been laid insofar as we were raised in the church through our grandparents or our parents, depending on how old we are. So we have a base knowledge or understanding about what spirituality and religion is supposed to mean. But sometimes it stops just there. Some people haven't had life-changing circumstances that made them have to delve deeper into the 3 or those individually. They haven't been granted that yet. Or if they haven't realized what they had or what they were going through. So they're continuously doing it over and over again. But my point is that the majority of the people out here are not conscious at all. They're living in a world with their eyes wide shut, and we would be doing them a disservice if we take it above the fundamentals at this point. It's almost like you have to give to someone who's actually actively seeking. You just can't, throw it all out there. Some people, all they need is the Bible. Anything more will make their fucking head explode. It's funny. It's almost like, I told you guys I went to an evangelical university for my master's, and what I found was a lot of theologians are atheists. I think it's because they know too much. That was probably my first going there, and the classes that I had to take and them having to fess up or have to dig deep into how, Christianity is a ripoff from earlier religions and cultures and so on and so forth. You couldn't walk away you didn't walk away empowered. You walked away confused. Like, well, what the hell is going on now? Now I know that there's a God. I know because I've called on him. I've seen him work right before my eyes, but I know it has to be a little bit deeper than that. And some people aren't even right there yet. Some people haven't even seen him work. They're still living off of the dream that their grandmother told them about. They don't even, and if it is working, they don't recognize it's working because their head is up their ass, so they don't know a blessing from a curse. Because we've talked about discernment. We're living in a world where a lack of discernment, we see it every damn day, and bad decision making. So I personally believe that to give more would be crippling us as a Black society than it would be more so helping us. And then you can't even really entrust more to certain individuals because it's like absolute power corrupts absolutely. So it's like, where do you go from there? Because those vessels that we talked about that are supposed to be in our community helping funnel or at least be able to break it down in a way that you understand, they're corrupt. They can't be trusted. So it's like you have to go on a spiritual journey all unto itself. But it's a lot to that. And I'm sorry, right now we live in a very lazy fucking world where people don't want to go out and cross-reference. They want to just take you at your word for it and just hope that you were right. And because also it means that they are the victim. They don't have to take blame because, Teacher Tanisha told me that this is what it was. She was wrong, not me. That's the world that we kind of live in right now. So it's so much under here. When we talk about spirituality and religion and culture, it's an onion and not an orange. There's so many different layers that you consistently just kind of like peeling back. And so I just think, I think we need to go back to one-on-one, once upon a time. I don't think we need to go no further right now.
She like, can we deal with the now?
Seriously, it's scary what people don't know. I talk about some things and then people looking at me like I got 2 heads. Like, what? Really? But I've been through a lot. People don't understand how this world is almost palatable. I could touch it, what's going on around me. But I've been through some things that give you chills as it pertains to the spiritual world. So I know it's deeper than just what you've outlaid in this Bible. I know it's deeper than this. I don't know why I know. I don't know how I know, and ain't nobody told me. It's innate. It's inside of me because that's just how connected I am. You know what I mean? I went through a fast around the time that I lost my job in '09, and then I went back to get my master's in 2010. That's when I did the big chop and went to a fade because I almost had a nervous breakdown. I had lost my identity when I lost my $80,000 a year job. My condo was going into foreclosure. I had also been told that I wouldn't be able to have kids again. Like, I went through a whole lot of shit. What am I bringing that up for? Why did I tell y'all that?
To show
I
how
lost
you
my
came
train of thought.
forward.
Damn, I lost my train of thought. But I've just been through a lot. Oh, I know why. I went on a fast. I went on a 7-day water fast. I didn't eat. I didn't do anything. All I did was drink water for 7 full days. By the
That's a
end of
lot
that,
of
I felt
discipline.
like, oh man, when I tell you, by the end of that, I felt like God was sitting on the edge of the tub talking to me, having a one-on-one conversation. That's how deep it was. That's what led me to go to the evangelical university, because I was trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do with my life? My identity has been so tied to these things of the world, and they're all being stripped away from me. So now I don't know who I am. And it was like, that's when I did the 7-day water fast, and it all was clear. But people haven't been through that. People don't even know what that feels like. So no, right now we need to take what we have, rework it, reframe it, rephrase it, reteach it. But we gotta at least get people up to speed on what's really happening right now.
I don't know that I can really come behind that and say too much more, because you two ladies really covered it. I don't think we need more, like Ming was saying. We just need to use what you have. The knowledge is already there. It's the understanding that's lacking. You know what I'm saying? There's no understanding of what is sitting there. You know what I'm saying? You can make somebody read through a Shakespeare play, but if they don't know Shakespearean language, they're not going to understand it. You know what I'm saying? They can see the words, they can pronounce them, but it doesn't mean anything because they don't understand that sentence structure. They don't know that this word means something different in 2008 than it did when it was written. So, the knowledge is there, the understanding is not. And then also, as Black people, we have a tendency to want to agree on all things, but we can't, because it's a community made of individuals. And so we're not going to be able to be monolithic in our thinking. You know what I'm saying? As long as we can move in one general positive direction as a collective, I'm fine with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm good with that. If you want to be uh, a Christian, and the other one is a Hebrew Israelite, and the other one is an atheist, and the other one is just leans on esoteric knowledge, or whatever the situation may be, I'm good with all of that, as long as we can, like Teach says, stop looking for the differences, because there's plenty of that. But look for the threads of truth that run through everything, because there are universal truths.
Exactly.
There are
Exactly.
universal truths. And so once you find the threads of the universal truth, then we can all reach some common understanding and some common ground. We don't have to be duplicates of one another. We just have to have some basic understanding of what are we doing, how are we going to do it, and let's do it. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if you want to go to church, you know what I'm saying, and worship. I don't care if you want to go to the masjid. I don't care. Listen, Allah say the whole world is a masjid.
Yep.
He created this world.
And everybody
So it
born
don't
Muslim.
matter, you know what I'm saying, like where you go. So, as long as we can have some type of understanding and reach some common ground somewhere, because there is common ground, then we can start to see something. But we gotta stop being petty, you know what I'm saying, on the differences.
Yeah. And when I say
I
everybody is Muslim, I mean everybody is born believers. It's the
Mhm.
world that's what it say, right? I don't remember which surah, but it's the world that corrupts you and make you other than.
Everybody is born. The Arabic term. Everybody is born on their fitra. Everybody is born on nature, on their nature, and it's the world that takes them off their nature.
Nature. Okay.
Mhm. Well, I think we just need everything to be better and more consistent. So, uh, with what Ming and teacher Tanisha were saying, I agree with a lot of what they were saying, and that we don't need more culture or religion or whatever. We just need to take all the good parts of everything, try to stay away from the negative, and just be better at teaching future generations and stay consistent about it. And that's about it.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Well, uh, always having to be the dissenting voice. But why can't I just
We
agree
love
for
you for it,
once?
though. We love you for it, though.
Oh, I love you
Mhm.
guys too. Okay. So, coming from somewhere else, and obviously I was born in Canada, and I always talk about North America, but I don't mean Canada, I actually mean Jamaica. So, having my origin being from Jamaica and having Jamaica have being a place or a country that has a relatively intact culture, especially in comparison to North America and especially Black America, um, I'm going to say that what is severely lacking in America is an intact culture. Um, the thing is, a lot of things that happen in general, a lot of the ways in which we learn how to be productive members of society, a lot of ways that we learn how to just be productive individuals, how to have confidence, what we have confidence in, et cetera, is through cultural transmission. So that can be anything from the son, watching daddy shave and, learning how to shave from that, or, going out on the hunt with daddy back in the days, and stuff like that. We don't have parents anymore who are teaching their children how to anything. We do not have parents anymore who are modeling for their children how to anything. And that is a major factor that is entirely fractured in North America, especially in Black America, as I said. And I think that the lack of intact culture, because the thing is, we have aspects of culture here. So there's language, and there's the subculture language like slang and whatever. There's music, there's dress, there's a bunch of things. But even a lot of those things are based on something that has a culture, like say the prison culture, or we're going to base our entire culture as far as the way that we're dressing today on hip hop culture. So the thing is, it's that your culture in and of itself should not be synonymous with a musical movement or a musical subculture that grew. Your culture, hip hop, should be a part of our culture, not our culture. And I think that when I look at what is missing, when I look at why it is that these prosperity preachers have been able to run buck wild and are able to stand on pulpits and literally preach something that is not in the Bible and preach to a bunch of single women, because trust me, here in Jamaica, the fact that the church is full of a lot of women and normally more women than men, that holds true there as well. And yet you could have a church that is just women, and they will still sit there and preach to these women about the fact that they must be good women, submit to their husbands, so on and so forth, and adhere to these ideals. The fact that these prosperity preachers can run buck wild is because there isn't an intact culture that has been passed down from generation to generation to all of these women that tell them what a family looks like, that tells them what being a woman and being a wife and being a mother looks like, right? The fact that these men can look at the kid and say, that they know is theirs because they went and did the DNA test and whatever, and say, you know what? Your mom's a bitch. And so you know what? She's your problem. You're her problem now. Screw all of this and walk away and then feel vindicated about that because there are men who are legitimately having their children being taken away from them and having to fight through custody courts or being charged all kinds of child support for children that have been proven not to be theirs, and et cetera, et cetera. So they can just quietly join in with those guys, and you know what? It's all right because there's so much black female fuckery going on that, you know what? No one's gonna really look at me too sideways when I say, yeah, but you know, she's such a bitch. She made my life hell. No one's gonna ask me any questions because it's okay. Right. So this is something that he didn't have a father and a grandfather and uncles and whatever. There was no cultural transmission on how to be a man, what being a man means, on the fact that men provided. What does that mean when a man is a provider? What does it mean that, you know, I was speaking about this to Cerulli in the I think it was yesterday or whatever. And I was watching Breaking Bad. I've never seen it before. I know I'm a little late. And there's a scene, and it's in season 2 with Gus, and Gus is speaking to him, and he said,
I don't know either.
I just watched it, like literally, I saw it like 2 days ago. And
I
Gus says,
I know what you're talking about.
Thank you. And Gus says, he says, what does a man do? Right, because he wants to get out of the drug game and this and that. He's like, you know what, like this is too much. I lost my whole family. My wife has left me and whatever. And Gus said, well, as long as you have children, you will always have family. What does a man do? Right? And he stares back and he's like, oh, I don't know. Clearly, like he looked like almost like confused. And then Gus goes, a man provides. He provides for his family, and even when he's not appreciated, even when he's not respected. A man provides, right? And that was, remember, we already established the wife left you. As long as you have children, you will always have family. That's what he said. He didn't say, oh, you can get your wife back. Who cares about your wife? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those kids. And a man provides, right? Now, cultural transmission would have already just taught, it would just be ingrained in you. That's what you do. You have children, you provide, right? Women, you know what? We can say the same thing. What does a mother do? A mother nurtures. She cares. Whether even when she's not respected, even when she's not appreciated, what does she do? She takes care, right? But there's no cultural transmission telling our people what they need to do. And so to me, more than anything else, because I think it would honestly repair all kinds of things, because this is what has our youth, especially our young boys, gravitating towards things like gangs. Why? Because the gang gives them a culture. It literally is passed down from OG down to OG to, you know, whatever. It's passed down. They get a whole culture, right? It's the same thing with prison. A lot of people want to go back to prison. Why? Because there's a culture there. There's something they can understand. There's something they can adhere to. There's something that tells them how to be, and they've learned, and they, you know, slowly as they grow up, and then they teach the newbies and so on and so forth, right? People need culture. Without a culture and without an intact culture, people are lost. So and I'm looking at Jamaica, and again, you know, I'm not saying that our culture is perfect and is fully intact. I'm just saying it is more intact, and being able to compare Jamaicans in Jamaica to North America, I got to say that the one thing that is needed above all else is an intact culture.
Well, in America, Black people don't really, we don't really have a culture. Culture was kind of laid on us in a sense. We live a generic form of white people's culture. Basically, I mean, you call it what you want, but we live a basic generic form of white culture. And I'll tell you why I believe that. Because when Black people were brought here, they were stripped of everything. They were stripped of their God. They were stripped of whatever culture they had. They were stripped of whatever religious practices they had, whatever language they had. And something new was indoctrinated on to those people. And that new thing was something that was formulated from Europe, brought to America, and then passed on to Black people. And as we sit here right now, because every single one of us, I mean, I know me, I speak about 3 or 4 different languages, but my primary language is English. English isn't the native language of Black people, but we speak English, right? We live a particular way. That particular way pass on to us, right? Pass on to us from white people. We look at white people for standards of beauty, standards of success, standards of failure, standards of what's good, what's bad, standards of what to have, what not to have. So when you talk about Black people's culture, we don't really have a culture. The only culture that Black people have is culture that white people have said we have, if you can understand what I'm saying. Or should I say,
we know what we've been told.
Yes, we know what white folks have told us, what they have told us, whether it be directly
How is he still talking?
by verbalizing, or indirectly by whatever literature they gave to us over the course of centuries. Now, you fast forward back to 2018, we are still trying to find a culture. We are still trying to find African culture or Jamaican culture or culture from South America, or wherever we are, whatever we gravitate towards as a Black society, we are trying to seek those cultures out. Because you have a lot of people who claim to live the African culture. And let me tell you something. A lot of the people who claim to be living the African culture, they're not, because the shit they do and say has not a damn thing to do with Africa. Mm-hmm. I know a brother from Africa. I know a brother from Senegal. And let me tell you something. Most of these so-called Afrocentric people, they're nothing like him. Nothing. Mm-hmm. They don't talk like him. They don't dress like him. They don't eat the shit he eats. They don't carry their way. They don't carry themselves the way he carries himself. They just don't. Mm-hmm. So even some of those so-called made-up cultures that we have, they're not even close to what the real culture is. And far as spirituality goes, I think, to be honest, I think spirituality is probably the purest thing that Black folks can have, because, see, spirituality is somewhat subjective. Now, it has some rules, regulations, and parameters, but if you say you spiritual about this lamp, I can't deny that, because I don't know what kind of relationship you have with this lamp. If you say you're spiritual about a tree, I cannot deny it. I cannot judge it. I cannot call you on it, because I don't know what your relationship is with that tree, right? So when you're a spiritual person, spirituality kind of it emanates from within, as opposed to someone indoctrinating you with it. You know what I'm saying? You're not pulling that spirituality so much from a piece of literature or a theological reference. That spirituality is coming from within. So I think that is probably the least corruptible form of what we're talking about tonight. Now, when we go to religion, we know that shit corrupt as all be damned. They done corrupted every form of it, whether it be Islam, whether it be the Catholic Church, the Baptist Church. No matter what it is, you can find massive corruption in those religions. Okay, and you won't have to look hard. Yeah, you won't have to look hard. You won't need a magnifying glass. All right,
right.
You don't need a magnifying glass. So I say that to say this. When we talk about culture, spirituality, and religion, I believe that Black people, and I agree, Okay, I'm gonna disagree with you, classic lady, classic. I believe that black society needs less. It definitely needs less religion. Okay, it probably needs less religion than it does less culture and less spirituality, because religion has blinded black folks. Religion has caused black folks to not only take on a enslavement mind frame. Religion has caused black folks to have limits on their thinking, limits on their abilities, limits on what they can do with their lives, limits on what other people are capable of, limits on what they are capable of. Religion has caused much of black society to live within a bubble. Okay, they live within a bubble. My father used to say something all the time. He used to say, "So heavenly bound that they are no earthly good." And he also used to say, they have their head buried so deep in the scriptures that they can't see anything. So I believe that religion has done that to many of us. Not that it has done it to all of us. You know, there's always exceptions to every rule, but I believe that religion has blinded people, and it has caused them to not see the big picture in many instances. Because like I said earlier, they like to use it as a sword against you and a shield against themselves. And when you do that, there's no way you can be fully in tune with whatever religion you're claiming, because that's not what religion is for. Even though I'm not a religious person, I just don't believe that is what religion is for. So religion itself has corrupted a big percentage of black society. Just religion as an institution has corrupted not only the hearts and spirits and souls of black people, I feel like it's corrupted many of our minds. That's just me, you know. But we come around to the end of the show. Ladies, any final thoughts on this? What's up, brother Samuels? Any final thoughts on this spirituality, culture, religious thing before we sign out?
I'm sorry, I done took off my headpiece. I'm late for some done. But I will say this. Maybe I should cover the camera. But I will say this, that I mean, it's gonna be repetitive of what I was saying earlier, but people need to think for themselves. You don't need to be a part of any religious group or community in order to have a relationship with the Creator, or a relationship with your ancestors, or be spiritually inclined. You know, everybody just needs to think for themselves. You know, it's more about you having your own personal relationship with the Creator, however you see fit, however you see to do that, and to be more open to not just thinking, like, if I was stuck in a place where I couldn't move past what I learned, I would still be, you know, considered a Christian or of a Christian mindset. But I give thanks that I came above and beyond that for my own self, you know? So yeah, that's it. That's all I'm saying. I'm shutting up now. Go ahead, y'all.
Next up.
Well, I just wanted, like, I mean, I think ultimately that, I mean, too much. I think part of the issue is that when you don't have enough of anything else, you rely too heavily on the thing that you have. That is to say that without education, without an actual culture to fall back on, without a family, without the extended family, without a community, without anything else. The only thing that there really is religion, which is why religion is the be all end all. It is, at the end of the day, they don't even need to understand it, because again, they don't have an education to understand anything in general. They don't have the discipline. And again, like I said, that all comes back down to culture, lack of culture. There's nothing to tell you that you need to understand the religion and the words that you're saying and the promises you're making and what a tithe or offering really is and where that's found in the Bible, et cetera, et cetera. What I find all the time is that when I have conversations with Christians in general, they don't like having conversations with me, because what they're used to being able to do is they're used to being able to throw 1, 2, maybe 3 maximum Bible verses at somebody who disagrees with them, and that person just shuts up because, oh my God, well, that Bible verse, well, and then I'm gonna agree with I'm gonna disagree with that person, and then you know what? This person says to me, well, God is, and that's supposed to answer all of my arguments. So then we're good. But see, that doesn't work on me. Because I actually know just as many Bible verses, if not more, and I understand them better, and I actually know how to connect them to other things, and that doesn't work for the average American Christian. So they run from conversations with me, and I understand that, and it's because they don't have anything else, and I am threatening them by disagreeing with them. I'm threatening the only thing they have, which is religion, which is why I do think that it's not about having less, say, culture. I think that there needs to be, it's not about more or less, it's the fact that it's not intact. The aspects of culture may all be there one way or the other, they're just not intact. But I do think at the end of the day that what there needs to be less of is a reliance on religion. You can take away as many churches as you want. It's not going to make the Black reliance on religion less strong, because at the end of the day they don't have anything else. And what they and I keep saying they because I am not included in this. Remember, I've been a backslider for 17 years, so I'm not trying to rely on religion. But what and I'm not even going to say everyone who's religious or everyone who is spiritual, because it's not. It's the ones that we're talking about in the community that are following the prosperity gospels, that are living at church or just visiting on Sundays, but ultimately they think that solves all of their problems. And as Teach said, you don't have to think for yourself. You don't have to anything for yourself. Why would you? You're At the end of the day, your pastor told you just pray to God, and all of your problems will be solved. And everyone knows the parables of the people who pray and ask for help, and then you got sent a boat and a this and a that to come and save you, and you're not getting on because you're waiting for God's hand to literally reach down and pluck you up off that rock, right? So I just think at the end of the day, we really need to figure out, what do you do when a culture is entirely fractured, to basically revitalize it and put it back together? Because I think without that, most of the problems that we're seeing in the Black community are only going to get worse.
My last parting shot here is basically, if you don't, and I mean the collective you, if you don't have critical thinking skills, you might want to pull back from any religion that you're in. If the question why scares you, might want to pull back, because none of that should scare you. I find that a lot of times people who are really religious, but they don't have a lot of understanding about, who God is, or what God or the Creator wants from us, or what you think He wants, or whatever, tend to live more in a hocus pocusy kind of world rather than reality. Um, God works in mysterious ways. No, he don't. Not from where I sit. Pretty dang on practical to me. I haven't found anything mysterious about it. Um, it shouldn't be a mystery. That's part of the problem. There should not be a mystery to it. It should be really practical and within your observable reality. If you have a religion, any religion, and you can't apply it to real world situations, if you can't see it play out with any type of accuracy, and I'm not talking about, like little prophecies and the end time, I'm not talking about all that. I'm talking about the everyday stuff in your life. If there's no practicality attached to it, you might want to either check what you're doing or you need to check your understanding of it, because there should be no pie in the sky mystery, this big white man sitting in a chair running your life. It's just that's not how this is. This is not what it is. Not from anywhere I've ever sat and observed it. It hasn't been that way. So, I think critical thinking is the word of the day here. You know what I'm saying? Ask why. You know what I'm saying? This is the big knock on from for non-religious people to people who claim a organized religion. Oh, you guys don't think. It's blind faith. Let me tell you something. The creator has never required blind faith from anybody. That's not even what's being asked. So you're trying to give something that's not being asked. The question is why. The answers are there. It's not a mystery. God does not work in mysterious ways. It does not.
Next.
Well, I'm actually going to agree with Ruby when I say that we probably do need a more intact culture over anything else. As for religion, we have a lot of that, and we do have a lot of spirituality. So, as far as those two things go, I wish they were a little bit more organized. And that's about it.
Parting words. I don't know. My head is kind of a little all over the place because I'm on a journey that is a lot more spiritual than it is religious. I definitely believe in God. I believe in a creator. I've called on him and seen him work right in front of my eyes with a gun to my head. So I've been through some things. I've been through enough other things to know that we're not here by ourselves either. I'm more caught up and concerned with my soul. That's very important to me, is where is my soul going? Whether it's, and I'm of the belief, and people may think it's crazy, but I'm just going to share a little bit of my belief system, that until it's over, we do ascend and we do come back, and we do have to do certain things to get to whatever the lesson is that each of us are here to do, because we're all here for a reason. I'm into soul contracts and other things like that. So I guess my parting word would be to implore people to get a little bit deeper, to not be so one dimensional, because we're not living in a one dimensional world. I think that people need to get their head out their asses and know that it's a lot of roads to one place. And we're all going to be there, and we're all going to be looking at the person. It's all going to come down to these things that we're supposed to know, that are kind of like within us a little bit, that we have to go through circumstances to bring out. Some of them we know from the beginning. We all have spiritual gifts that we're supposed to sharpen. Some of us tap into them sooner than others, but we are all here for a reason. And what I've been trying to understand is, why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? And what mark am I supposed to leave? Because I damn for sure don't want to come back here, because I am
Right.
into
You want to
ascension. I don't
complete
want to
your
come back.
destiny and be
I want to
done.
complete it. Exactly. And it was so
Right.
much of a big deal to me because I think I mentioned this to you guys in passing that I even went to a therapist, and the therapist, he would talk to me and my husband like through marital counsel and stuff like that. But I also knew that his breadth of knowledge included the subject matter. And so that's why I went to him for like I'm having a lot of mortality thoughts and my soul and ascension and all these other things. And I went to him for about 3-4 weeks amongst other things to talk about, but we would sit down and chop it up just on spirituality for 2 hours sometimes, even though he would only charge me for the one. But we would sit there because I would have the evening appointments. But these type of conversations get so deep, especially with people who are engaged in them. You could talk for hours, and that's what we would do because it was so important to me. And that's kind of how I live my life, not by the 10 Commandments or not even by the laws that govern our state. It's more so about what I feel in my spirit that tells me what's right and wrong, because God did give me the gift of discernment. I've been knowing that since I was a child. So with that, I use my gut and I rely on my gut. My gut has saved my life on numerous occasions and even also saved others. I try to be so in tune with my gut that if something tells me as I'm walking out the door to grab my umbrella, but the forecast says sunshine, I'm grabbing my umbrella, because that's how in tune I am. I mean, I would go through things where all day long, when I had an accident in my car, my Cavalier, all that day, I saw people with their their left bumpers damaged. All day long, it would just pop out to me. And by the end of the night, somebody hit me in my left bumper. I have those type of like thoughts in my head, or I could think of like the boys being sick right now. I was just randomly daydreaming like, they haven't been sick in a while. Not even 7 days later, they both got what I think is the flu.
Yeah, but
It's just
that
like,
spirit letting you know certain things. That's how you connecting.
exactly.
That's why I said everybody got their
Exactly.
own
And that's
spiritual
why,
relationship with the creator, man.
exactly. And that's why I would tell people or implore people to go deeper, get deeper. And it doesn't have to be deeper into the Bible or any other tool like that. It's just get deeper within self. Now, I'm not a big, I don't advocate necessarily meditating if you're not prepared for meditating, because just as well as being able to let in the higher power, you can also let in demons and things like that if you're not prepared and well versed and
Well, yeah, people don't
you
need to be
structured
jumping
in
into
that
nothing.
way.
They're not,
They don't need
yeah,
to jump
gotta
into
be
that, but
protected with all things.
you got to protect yourself. So, but it's just like, I just implore you to understand that we are living in a very, 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 very spiritual world. Even if people are trying to tell you it's one dimensional, or you walk across one dimensional people, where people are just so surface, that's all that's out here. And in order for your survival, if you care about your soul the way I care about my own, you need to do more research. You need to have more conversations. You need to do more alone time, more fasting. You need to do more detachment, not attachment. It's just a lot of things in principle that you need to start to figure out, So that's kind of where I am with it. I know, like I said, people look at me sometimes when I talk, I get real deep in that aspect. They're like, what are you talking about? But I've been through some things that I know for a fact. Like, I've played with the Ouija board and been able to hear what the board is saying with my eyes closed and can move it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know this shit is out here. I know what's going on. I've seen things. I've seen people's lives saved. And my nephew told me one time, man, God is standing right next to you, because that's something that carries in my bloodline from my mother's side. We all have that type of gift.
Yeah, a
My
lot of
grandmother
Black
told
women is
me,
connected like
yeah,
that. Come on,
yeah, my
sis, you already
grandmother told
know.
me that.
See, I know
Exactly. She was
self.
like,
That's right.
exactly. She told me, like, you're having a son. I had a dream that you were pregnant with a son, or had a boy, and he was swathed and whatever else. And this is during the time when I told her I never have kids again. And sure as shit stink, I got pregnant and I had a son. When I got pregnant with my daughter, my grandmother had a dream I was pregnant. She had a dream about fish, and I was pregnant. And then that may be cliche or whatever, but it's true. It's real. Like, it runs through my mother's bloodline. So I have it, and I've passed it on to even my own children. So I just say, even if you are religious, please diversify your goddamn philosophy as it pertains to spirituality, because it's a lot going on in this world that you need to be prepared to answer for when it's that time. Because you are supposed to figure this out. You're supposed to know. You're supposed to understand. You do not have no excuses to say, well, that's all that granny taught me, or that's all they said down to the church, and I did all my tithing. Fuck that. You have a responsibility to know what's going on over here. Like when I came to my new home, I blessed my house. Our pastor came room to room, garage, up, down, everywhere, and we prayed in every single room. And I had a lot of shit that went on with my house after that. But I know it's because I had blessed my home, and it was driving out some things. I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And people just don't, and I just don't understand it. It just pains me. It almost makes you look at the Jehovah Witness and say, are they on to something when they say just 144,000? Because I'm walking around here and I don't even meet like motherfucker, you're not going to heaven, you're not going to heaven, you're not, you know what I mean? Like I kind of get it. At first it's like they tripping, but that's what you need to do though. You need to learn and read and understand and talk about all these different things and find the common thread and what the truth is, because like Kendra said, there is a universal truth and there's no one road to it. There are multiple roads to it, and you have a responsibility to figure that out.
Well, I'll say this before we go. Whether it be culture, spirituality, or what we would consider to be the religious, I say that as an individual, you and only you can discover if you are one of these things, two out of the three, or all three combined. Don't let anyone tell you what you are or what you are not. Don't base any of your spirituality, your cultural beliefs, or your religious beliefs based on what you have been told. I will tell you to seek and find this information for yourself. Read it for yourself, ingest it for yourself, discover it for yourself.
And it will reveal itself.
Yes, and it will reveal itself
Mm-hmm.
to you. You can't let something that's been revealed to someone else, you can't let them turn around and reveal that to you. Okay? Whatever it is, if it's culture, spirit, or religious, you must seek and you shall find, and only you can determine where you are within any of those realms, and don't let anybody tell you anything different. So we have come to the end of the show. I want to thank the Unicorn 4 for coming through. They laid down another good show, plus the right hand of TPOT, teacher Tanisha, up in the house as well. Make sure you stop by Prophet of Thought Facebook page and the TPOT Bandwagon Facebook page, and make sure you go to the TPOT fan group page, request to be a member. I'm sure they will let you in. Also, make sure you stop by the website. If you want to see other things like this, the website is www.wikifoundry.wikifountry.com. Forgot my own damn website, y'all. You can also check us out on Twitter at TPOT Media. On Twitter, that's at TPOT Media. And you also can hit us up on WhatsApp and hit us up on Instagram as well. I want to thank everybody for coming through. I want to thank everybody in the chat room, my moderators, my new people. I see a couple new faces coming up in there. I appreciate y'all stopping by, spending a little time with us. Everybody who listened tonight. I also want to turn around and thank the Unicorn 4 again. Lady Ming, Lady Cats, Lady Kendra, Lady Classic, TLOT for laying down a good show once again, along with teacher. So with that, I will leave you with 3 words, and make sure you have your black asses back here next week, because we'll be right here with Unicorn 4 again, laying down another good show. So with that, I will leave you with 3 words like I always do. Open your minds, and we out of here, y'all.
Have a good night.
All right, good night.
Good night, y'all.
All right, good night, y'all.
Peace, folks.